Chapter 5. Discipline is the architect of identity. There is a lie that ruins more lives than failure ever could. The lie is this: one day I'll feel ready. One day I'll feel confident. One day I'll feel motivated. One day I'll feel unstoppable. One day the mood will be perfect. One day my energy will be high. One day life will calm down. That day doesn't arrive, because the people who win are not the people who wait for a feeling. They are the people who move without the feeling. They are the people who build discipline like a spine, strong enough to hold their life upright even when everything inside them wants to collapse. This chapter is not about inspiration. This chapter is about structure, because structure is strength, and discipline is the architect of identity. Not motivation, not talent, not luck, discipline. You become what you repeatedly do. Let that land hard, because it is not a quote for a poster. It is a law you either live by or you pay for. You become what you repeatedly do. You do not become confident by wanting confidence. You become confident by repeatedly doing confident actions. You do not become powerful by imagining power. You become powerful by repeatedly choosing the hard thing over the easy thing. You do not become respected by demanding respect. You become respected by repeatedly honoring your own standards. You become what you repeatedly do. And if you want an unbreakable self-image, you must understand this: your identity is not an idea. It is a habit. Identity is built through daily behavior. Every day you are voting for a version of yourself. Every decision is a vote. Every excuse is a vote. Every delay is a vote. Every disciplined action is a vote. And the identity that wins is the one you vote for most consistently. That is the mechanism. That is the architecture. That is the blueprint. You become what you repeatedly do. Now listen closely, because this is where most people lose the war. They think discipline is punishment. They think discipline is deprivation. They think discipline is something you force yourself into when you're desperate. No, discipline is protection. Discipline is self-respect in action. Discipline is the guard at the gate of your potential. Discipline is the bridge between the life you have and the life you want. Discipline is the architect of identity, and identity is the ceiling on your results. So if you want your results to rise, you must rebuild the ceiling. You rebuild it with repeated action, not repeated wishing. You become what you repeatedly do. Let's go deeper. Imagine your life as a city. Your thoughts are the weather. Your emotions are the traffic. Your circumstances are the random events, storms, accidents, unexpected visitors. But discipline? Discipline is the infrastructure. It's the roads that still lead somewhere when the weather is ugly. It's the power grid that keeps running when the storm hits. It's the foundation that doesn't move when everything shakes. Motivation is weather. Discipline is architecture, and architecture always wins over weather. You become what you repeatedly do. Here's the harsh truth. If your life collapses when motivation disappears, you are never building a life. You are building a mood. And moods are unstable. Moods are unreliable. Moods are temporary. So if you want a stable identity, you need stable behavior. Identity is built through daily behavior. Now let's expose another lie. I'm just not disciplined. People say that like it's a birthmark, like it's permanent, like it's genetic. It's not. That statement is not a fact. It's a confession of training, because you have discipline in some areas already. If you show up to work, you have discipline. If you pay bills on time, you have discipline. If you take care of others, you have discipline. The issue is not whether you have discipline. The issue is where you place it and what you place it behind. You become what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly discipline yourself to show up for obligations, but never for your dreams, you will become a responsible person with an unfulfilled soul. So the question is not, do I have discipline? The question is, where am I refusing to use it? That is the real question. And when you answer it honestly, you stop lying to yourself. Because the moment you stop lying, you can start building. You become what you repeatedly do. Now let's talk about confidence. People act like confidence is a gift, like some people are born with it and others aren't. That's childish thinking. Confidence is not a gift. Confidence is evidence. Confidence is what happens when you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can be trusted. Confidence is self-trust, and self-trust is built through discipline. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, self-trust rises. Every time you break a promise to yourself, self-trust collapses. This is why your inner voice sometimes feels weak. It's not because you lack potential. It's because you've trained your mind not to believe you. You say, I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow you don't. You say, I'll stop wasting time, and then you waste time. You say, this time is different, and then you repeat. Your mind learns his word means nothing. So when you try to hype yourself up, the mind resists because it doesn't trust you. That's the real reason motivation doesn't work for most people. Motivation is a speech, but your mind is a courtroom, and the evidence matters. You become what you repeatedly do. So to rebuild confidence, you don't need more speeches. You need more evidence. You need disciplined action, small actions, consistent actions, actions you repeat until your identity changes. Now we enter the confidence loop. This is one of the most powerful concepts you can install in your life. Action creates results. Results strengthen belief. Belief produces stronger action. Stronger action creates bigger results, and the cycle accelerates. But it begins with action, not belief, not mood, not motivation, action. The weak wait for belief first. The strong build belief through action. That's the difference. You become what you repeatedly do. Let's make this concrete. A person says, I want to be fit, but they don't feel like training, so they wait. A week passes, they feel guilt. Then they try a dramatic burst of effort. Then they collapse again. Why? Because they're operating on motivation. Now imagine the disciplined version. They train when they feel like it. They train when they don't. They don't negotiate. They don't dramatize it. They treat it like brushing teeth. And after a while, something changes. Their body changes, yes. But more importantly, identity changes. They no longer say, I'm trying to work out. They say, I am the kind of person who trains. That identity becomes armor, because now training isn't a task, it's who they are. You become what you repeatedly do. Identity is built through daily behavior. Now apply this to business. The person who wins isn't the one who gets inspired once. It's the one who repeatedly does the boring things. Follow-ups, calls, emails, building systems, tracking numbers, learning skills, improving offers, showing up when nobody claps. The person who loses is usually not less intelligent. They're less consistent. They don't lack dreams. They lack discipline. And discipline is the architect of identity. You become what you repeatedly do. Now let's talk about why waiting for motivation keeps people weak. Because motivation is emotional credit, And credit is unstable. Some days it's available, some days it's gone. If you only act when motivation is high, you are letting your lowest emotional state control your highest potential. That is weakness. Not because you're a bad person, because you've been trained to obey comfort. And comfort is a seductive tyrant. Comfort whispers, later. Comfort whispers, rest. Comfort whispers, you deserve a break. Comfort whispers, tomorrow. And then tomorrow becomes a month. Then a month becomes a year. Then a year becomes regret. You become what you repeatedly do. Discipline is what breaks the spell of comfort. Discipline says, move. Discipline says, start. Discipline says, finish. Discipline says, hold the standard. Discipline does not negotiate with moods. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Discipline cares about results, and results come from repeated action. You become what you repeatedly do. Now, I want you to understand the real function of discipline. Discipline is not primarily about doing more. It's about doing less of what destroys you. It's about closing leaks. Most people don't need a new personality. They need to stop hemorrhaging attention. They need to stop bleeding energy into nonsense. They need to stop feeding the habits that weaken them, because a life is not destroyed only by massive failures. It is destroyed by daily leaks, small distractions, small excuses, small compromises, small betrayals. You become what you repeatedly do. So here is the first behavioral instruction of this chapter. Stop negotiating with your standards. Standards are not suggestions. Standards are laws. If you want an unbreakable self-image, your standards must be clear and they must be enforced. Not when it's convenient, always. Because when you negotiate your standards, you teach your mind that you can be bribed. And a mind that can be bribed will never become a leader. You become what you repeatedly do. Let's build something practical. A disciplined identity is built through rituals. Rituals are repeated behaviors that remove decision-making. Decision-making drains willpower. Rituals conserve willpower. When something becomes ritual, it becomes automatic. And when it becomes automatic, it becomes identity. So here are the 4 pillars of a disciplined identity. Pillar 1, a non-negotiable morning anchor. Not a perfect routine, an anchor. One action that signals to your mind, I am in control. It can be a short workout, a walk, a cold shower, a focused work block, a journal, but it must be consistent because the mind learns through repetition. Your mind becomes what it repeatedly experiences, and you become what you repeatedly do. Pillar 2, a daily main thing. One high-value action that moves your life forward. Not 10 tasks, one main thing, because clarity creates power. The undisciplined person does many things and moves nowhere. The disciplined person does one meaningful thing and moves forward every day. That is how empires are built, one brick at a time. You become what you repeatedly do. Pillar 3, a controlled environment. Your environment is either training your discipline or training your distraction. If your phone runs your day, you're not free. If social media sets your mood, you're not free. If other people's opinions control your decisions, you're not free. You don't need permission to protect your environment. You don't need permission to remove distractions. You don't need permission to be serious. And seriousness is a form of self-respect. You become what you repeatedly do. Pillar 4, an evening review. Not to shame yourself, to train awareness. Ask, what did I do today that strengthened my identity? What did I do today that weakened my identity? What will I do tomorrow to raise the standard? That review turns life into training, and when life becomes training, identity evolves faster. You become what you repeatedly do. Now let's deal with the enemy of discipline, emotional bargaining. Emotional bargaining sounds like this: I'll do it if I feel good. I'll do it if I have time. I'll do it if things calm down. I'll do it if it's easy. That is not a plan. That is a permission slip for weakness. Discipline does not bargain. Discipline commits, and commitment creates identity. You become what you repeatedly do. Here's a story to lock this in. A man wants to change his life. He's tired of being the person who starts and stops. So he creates a rule, not a goal, a rule. A rule is stronger than a goal because a goal negotiates. A rule commands. His rule is simple. Every day, no matter what, he will do 45 minutes of focused work on his main mission. Not when he feels inspired, not when the day is perfect, every day. At first, his mind fights him. It throws excuses like punches. I'm tired. I'll do it later. I'm not in the mood. But he follows the rule anyway, and something shifts. He starts respecting himself. His confidence rises. He begins making progress. Then his progress becomes motivation, not the other way around. And after months, he realizes something. He doesn't need to try anymore because he built a disciplined identity. He became what he repeatedly did. That's the transformation. Now I want to address another confusion. People think discipline is harsh. They think it makes life smaller. But discipline doesn't shrink your life, it expands it, because discipline gives you choice. Without discipline, you are at the mercy of impulses. Without discipline, you are dragged by cravings, distractions, and emotions. Without discipline, your life becomes a boat with no captain. It moves where the wind pushes it. Discipline is the captain. Discipline is the steering wheel. Discipline is freedom. You become what you repeatedly do. Now let's talk about the difference between intensity and consistency. Intensity is a firework, bright, loud, short. Consistency is a furnace, quiet, stable, powerful, long-lasting. Most people try to change their life with fireworks, a sudden burst, a dramatic promise, a huge routine. Then they burn out. Then they collapse. Then they hate themselves. Then they repeat. But the builder chooses the furnace, small actions repeated daily until the identity is forged. That is how steel is made. Heat, pressure, repetition, not one dramatic moment. You become what you repeatedly do. So here is your second behavioral instruction. Lower the size of your daily promises. Increase the frequency of your daily proof. Stop setting goals that require you to become a different person overnight. Instead, set actions that allow you to become a different person gradually, because gradual change becomes permanent change. Permanent change becomes identity. You become what you repeatedly do. Now there's another layer, discipline under pressure. Anybody can be disciplined when life is calm. The test is chaos. The test is stress. The test is disappointment. The test is fatigue. This is where most people regress. They abandon routines. They numb out. They self-sabotage. They say, I'll get back on track when things improve. But the builder understands. Pressure is the training ground. Pressure reveals identity. Pressure doesn't create weakness. Pressure exposes it. And exposure is good because now you know what to train. You become what you repeatedly do. So here's your third behavioral instruction. When pressure hits, Do not expand your routine, compress it. Do the minimum effective dose. If you can't do an hour, do 15 minutes. If you can't do a full workout, do push-ups and a walk. If you can't do a full work session, do one focused sprint. Keep the chain alive, because consistency is identity, and identity is your ceiling. You become what you repeatedly do. Now let's connect discipline back to the self-image. An unbreakable self-image is not built by positive thinking. It is built by a track record of showing up, a track record of finishing, a track record of doing the uncomfortable thing even when nobody is watching. That track record becomes a silent inner confidence, not arrogance, certainty, because you know what you do. You don't hope, you don't wish, you know, and that knowing is power. You become what you repeatedly do. Now I'm going to give you one more framework that will change everything if you use it. The identity question. Before you make a decision, ask, what would the disciplined version of me do right now? Not the motivated version, not the perfect version, the disciplined version. Then do that, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, because the decision is the vote. You become what you repeatedly do. If you use this question daily, you begin shaping your identity on purpose. You stop drifting. You stop reacting. You stop being dragged by moods. You begin leading, and leadership begins internally. You become what you repeatedly do. Now let's address the final obstacle, the fear of boredom. The modern mind is addicted to stimulation. It wants novelty. It wants entertainment. It wants dopamine. Discipline often feels boring at first. Same wake time, same work session, same training, same standards. And the undisciplined person says, this feels repetitive. Yes, that's the point. Repetition is identity. Repetition is mastery. Repetition is power. You become what you repeatedly do. A musician becomes great by repeating scales. A fighter becomes great by repeating fundamentals. A builder becomes great by repeating habits. A leader becomes great by repeating standards. If you cannot tolerate repetition, you cannot tolerate greatness, because greatness is not a flash, it is a forge, and the forge requires repeated heat. You become what you repeatedly do. So here's the truth that ends this chapter. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. Motivation knocks sometimes. Discipline lives here. And the life that obeys you, your habits, your choices, your outcomes, will only obey you when discipline becomes your identity. Not something you do, something you are. Identity is built through daily behavior. Confidence is built through kept promises. Belief is built through action. Action creates results. Results strengthen belief. Belief produces stronger action, and the cycle makes you unstoppable. You become what you repeatedly do. You have now learned the architecture. You have now seen the blueprint. But a builder also understands something else. A strong identity cannot survive in a weak mental environment. Your mind is constantly being fed by people, by media, by noise, by negativity, by distractions. So now that you've built discipline as the architect of identity, we must protect the construction site, because what you allow into your mind becomes your future. You strengthened your inner voice. You sharpened your standards. You learned to act without waiting for a mood. Now let's talk about guarding your mind like it's your fortune. Make sure to follow this channel for the 6th chapter. If it's already published, you can find it in the description of this audio. The title of the next chapter is Guard Your Mind Like It Is Your Fortune.